to episode 14 of the Trail Times podcast with Big Bear Events. This podcast is coming after the Otter challenge, so it's been, I think, a 3-week break since the last one. I know the first rule of podcasting is that you've got to keep it consistent, and I'm not going to do that. So I'm only going to really put podcasts out after events or if there's something to actually say. So we've had an event. I've actually been pretty busy as well doing other bits, and I even did my own event as well. I actually ran something. So lots to get through, but I did make a little bit of an error in that I forgot to pack my GoPro for the Otter challenge. So unfortunately, rather than having a few clips from the actual day, which is what I've been doing in the previous editions of this, it's just going to be me talking to camera a couple of days after the event. So hopefully not too repetitive, not too boring, and apologies. I definitely should have taken it with me. I will be taking it with me next time. I got there, I went to take it out, and it wasn't there. Anyway, Otter Challenge. Otter Challenge was on Thursday, the 26th of June at Kingsbury Water Park, which is about 45 minutes from here in Rugby. Beautifully located because it's right next to the M6 and right next to the M42, but does mean that it's right next to the M6 and right next to the M42, and so you do have the noise of traffic all day, which is really frustrating because it's a beautiful, beautiful place, and if you didn't have that road noise, it would be just absolute bliss. Once you've been there for a while, the road noise sort of disappears, but I always am there thinking, if it wasn't for that motorway, but if it wasn't for the motorway, it wouldn't be quite so easy to get to either. So you win some, you lose some. As is always the way, we'll talk about the weather. Weather was pretty decent most of the day. We're in the middle of we're about to start a heat wave, I think, tomorrow morning. I'm already getting quite hot sitting in the office without any air conditioning on or a door open. So it's getting warm today. Yesterday for the actual event, started off really humid, and then we had sort of a 10-minute, it's not a super heavy downpour, but proper rain for about 10 minutes, and that sort of just cleared the humidity away, and then it was pretty warm sunshine. So I think for a runner it was probably tricky to start with because of the humidity, and then the rain probably calmed it down a little bit, and then later on during the day the sunshine and the heat probably made it difficult again as well. But we definitely needed that bit of rain because the humidity was getting really quite stifling at times, and selfishly, when it rains early, it gives all my kit time to dry out, so all of my kit was nice and dry, which was good, because it does ruin the day a little bit for me if I then have to spend the next day putting up gazebos, and then the day after that taking down gazebos. So I was pretty happy that was the way it went. Great running and walking and moving from everybody that was there. Really nice, really decent numbers as well. We had 77 finishers or starters, same difference with our event, which is good. As I was saying to a lot of people yesterday, in the summer, for some reason, don't really know why, but we struggle for numbers in the summer. So I've had some events in the summer that have had really, really poor showing. So to get 90 entered and then 10 or so not turn up is good. Next event that's coming up is the Swan Challenge at Coombe Abbey, and I think the last time I checked there was 117 entered for that, so that's really, really good numbers. And then the 10k in the evening sold out. I've got a waiting list that's way too long, so numbers are looking really good. So it's all positive steps. Had a really good start to the year, really good mids of the year. The stuff is booking pretty well for the end of the year as well. Things are looking good, so it's a good year around. In terms of some stories from yesterday's Otter Challenge, I've been good. I made a list so I wouldn't forget things that happened. So in no particular order, we'll go through some of the individuals, what they got up to, some of the individual stories, and so on and so on. Again, this is very much a snapshot of just the bits that I heard and wrote down. So there will be lots of amazing stories from the people that are there, but I'd just like to highlight a few of them. So firstly, Louise, who has been to, I think this is her third event with us. So Louise is blind and has a guide runner with her, but Louise has done 125 marathons, but this is the first one that she's managed to do with us, which is good, because she'd picked out, the first event she came to with us was at Hartshill Hayes, and that is an incredibly tough course to do anyway, when you can see, and also it's for our sort of events, it's very technical, just because it's genuinely through the middle of the woodland. The paths that we pick are very tight to the trees. It's not something that somebody can guide you around particularly easily when they've got to be stopping you every couple of steps to say, watch that tree root, watch this, watch that. So Sarah, who comes to lots of our events, was guiding Louise around that one. I remember, I think that might have been maybe last year or the year before, and that was tough. I think they might have done a half marathon, which is incredibly impressive to be guided around that. But I was overjoyed that Louise managed to get the marathon that she was after at one of our events at the third time of asking, because I know that's what she sets out wanting to do, and I can't remember the other course that she came to, but it just wasn't going to happen there either. But it was brilliant to see her finish and to be guided around as well, her guide being Adam as well. So it's a really I don't know what the word is, rewarding thing to do, to guide somebody around on those marathons. And I know that UK Athletics do sort of like guiding courses so that you can then offer your services to guide people around. And it's definitely something that people should try and do. And if there's anybody you know that wants to come and run who needs a guide, always ask in the Facebook group, or I can put something out to the runners to see if we can get someone to come and help. Because I know that there's people that want to help, there's people that might need help, and it's about trying to marry them up a little bit at the event. So yeah, that was really good to see Louise do that. We've got two people that I overheard again talking about how they planned to do something and they did loads more than they planned to. So I was chatting a bit with Ben. So he was going pretty well from the start, looked like he was going to be going all day, and at a decent rate as well. Had a little chat to him, and he's doing a challenge a month. I forget the charity he's doing it for, but he's doing a challenge a month for the charity that he's raising funds for. And the challenge that he was meant to be doing with us was to do 6 laps. So that's just under 20 miles. But rather than doing 6 laps, he did 10 laps. So he did 33 miles. So he's come in with the objective of doing about 20 miles and instead did, over 50k. So massive well done to him. But again, it just shows that the format means that you can do what you want to do on the day. I don't think he would have signed up to a 30 miler or 33 miler or 50k, whatever it is, but he came along, he was having a good day, he'd already got the day where he didn't have to be anywhere else, so I might as well carry on. And then we also had Tracy do something very similar. She'd planned on doing 5 laps, so that's 16.5 miles roughly, and instead she carried on and she did 8 laps, she did the marathon, and she had no intention of doing that on the day. And so many people come with more, I was going to say lower is not the right word really, but they plan to do less mileage and they end up just doing more, whether it's because they're feeling good on the day or they underestimated their abilities and they weren't restricted because they've still got 3 hours to go or whatever it is, and they can take on a bit of food and they can walk. Or the big scary challenge that was big and scary isn't when you break it down into smaller bits. And on that as well, so we had a few people doing their first ultras. So Chloe did her first ultra. So Chloe commented on something on Instagram, and because I don't have a massive following on Instagram or any of the social medias, whenever somebody does follow, I always have a little click on their profile to see what they are, see if they're runners, if they've got big accounts or whatever they are. Clicked on Chloe, so she's got over 600,000 followers. I'm thinking, wow, that's a lot. but she does makeup tutorials, I think, from what I can make out. And so 600,000 people that want to do makeup might not necessarily have a massive crossover into people who want to come and run laps on a Thursday. But it was brilliant to see her then doing TikToks of her day, which I've shared some across to the Instagram as well. She does it really well. She gets the events. She did come with some very nice sort of little cool boxes, absolutely chock-a-block of food. Hopefully she left thinking, I didn't really need to bring much of that because I could have used the A station. It was noticeable. So we had a lot of people who essentially signed up through Find a Race, and so found us through a different way. So rather than they previously run with us, they know what we're about, and they've come back and run again, they've effectively searched for 10k near me, and we've popped up and they've come and entered one of our events, which is brilliant because it introduces Big Bear to a different customer. So I wouldn't necessarily be able to get those people, because to compete on 10k near me or half marathon near me on Google costs so much money. Find a Race, do all that hard work and then feed people in. Obviously I have to pay them quite a big chunk to find these people. That's just how their business model works, so I don't begrudge it, because they also bring me people that I don't think ever would have found me. So it works really, really well. So they bring in loads of people that are completely brand new, which I can assume Chloe was one of those, and I then get them, and then hopefully they enjoy it. So then next time they come direct to me and they sign up direct with me. I don't pay Find a Race a fee, and they just keep feeding new people in. So that's the way that works. Anyway, so Chloe does these really good videos, but she came with loads of food, as did, this is my point, sorry, as did quite a few of the people who were new. So the A station didn't really get touched for the first few laps. So Mary and my mum, who sort of man the A station most of the time, were like, well, no one's taken any of the food. So obviously I helped by eating the hot cross buns and the chocolate cake. But as the day went on, people sort of gravitate from their bag and what they know they've got, and they think, oh, well, I just saw somebody else try some crackers with cheese, maybe I'll try that. And so it sort of, eventually people ate everything and it all goes, and they come take the watermelon and all these things. But it's really nice to see people, and Chloe especially, because I've seen from the videos that she's done post-event, come and do something that they've never done before and really enjoy the format. And it's not that people, it's the same with everybody, it's not that they'll only ever run a 6-hour event. Of course that's not the case, but what they thought might be really boring, running laps around a park, ended up not being that, and actually quite enjoyable with lots of benefits, as I talk about all the time. The benefits of those lapped events: toilets, getting back to your car, being able to change things, being able to change your goals for the day, all the benefits. But it's brilliant bringing new people into that. And another person that did their first ultra as well, in an incredibly impressive time, was Millie, who was the first female to finish, and she did 12 laps, so that's 39.6 miles, so call it 40 miles. 40 miles, which is really good going. So that's her first ultra. She's done 2 marathons beforehand, but to be doing 40 miles in 6.5 hours, age 21, if she keeps going, future is bright. I'd suggest that she will be winning bigger events and doing really well in some sort of bigger, more competitive events, if she carries on going at that rate. It was incredibly impressive running. She looked tired at the end, obviously, but throughout the day she looked like it was completely in control, which is always good to see. So alongside Millie and Chloe and all the other people doing it, what I didn't get told this until I'd finished the race briefing. Otherwise, I'd have made more of a thing about it on the day. But Angelo was running his 100th marathon with us. So normally, when somebody does their 100th marathon, make a big thing of it in the race briefing. I've got some little blocks that I give to people to celebrate their 100th. We give them the number 100, which I think I've got here. I've even got some of them right in front of me. So we give a nice extra large bib. These are the bib sizes we used to have back in the day when I first started doing them, but we give them the 100 bib, people sign them and do all these things. But I only got told about it 1 minute before we started. Angelo ended up actually entering on the day because he thought he'd signed up, but he hadn't, and so he just did it on the day because he was there. I'm not going to turn somebody away. But he hadn't told me anything about it, which is a shame because I want to celebrate these things, because I'd had the conscious thought actually when I was loading the van up the day before of how maybe I should keep one of the little 100 blocks on the, like, in with all my stuff that I have that I take to every event, just in case I need to use it, so that the one time that I do need to use it, if I forget to pick one out especially, I'll have a spare effectively. But I didn't do it, obviously, so that was annoying because it would have been really nice to celebrate it. Angelo's come to quite a few of our events. I'm going to say maybe getting towards 10, so he's come to quite a few, but 100 marathons is obviously an insane achievement. It's strange when the more I'm in this sort of event world, the more of these events that I do, that I put on, it becomes slightly normal, because to see the 100 Marathon Club t-shirts, they're everywhere. So it's probably about 25% of the people running in my events in the 6-hour challenges are either in the 100 Marathon Club or trying to get into the 100 Marathon Club. And so these things become a little bit more normal. But it's not normal. It's crazy that people have run so many marathons and, you know, have committed so much time to doing it. But like I say, the more you're around this, the more it's like, oh yeah, they're in the 100 Club. Oh, Louise 125. I think Brian's getting close to 200. We had Rob, who's done, I want to say 225, maybe a few more. John Q, who is a whole episode in himself, is getting close to 2,000 marathons, which sounds made up, does sound made up, but it's not. So he must have done 40 or 50 with me, and I know with Phoenix Running he has done over 500 with one company. So, you know, I've got no doubting that the number that he says he's done, if it's not exactly right to the one, it won't be more than 1 or 2 off. So incredible numbers. But like I say, the more that you're around these people, the more it just becomes normal. But it is not normal to run 100 marathons. But what you then see is the people that do it, they are just normal people who have a passion, who dedicate the time and the effort to do these things. And that was the Otter Challenge. It was great. It was uneventful for me, which is always a bonus. And we go again in 2 weeks, as I'm sitting here, to do the Swan Challenge on Friday the 11th of July at Coombe Abbey. And then we have a little summer break. So there won't be any events until the 13th of September, when we then return for Trailfest at Cannock Chase Forest. So entries are available for all the distances for that. So that's 10k, half marathon, marathon, 50k. I'm going to go up there next weekend, it's only next week, I think, to do some videoing of the course. I'm going to try and pick the day where it's not 31 degrees. Or the day where it's raining, because I want to make sure it looks nice, but I also don't want to die out on the trail. So I'm going to try and pick the right day, but I'm planning on getting that video out soon so that people can see what the course is all about. It's brilliant. I love it out there, but it's also tough. That is the main reason we don't do 50 miles out there. It's because why we don't do 50 miles for the Trailfest anymore is because we had something like 25 enter the first year, 15 the second year, 10 the third year. It's like, well, this is going the wrong way. What you really want is 25 the first year, 40 the next year, 50 the next year. You want it to grow, not to get less. It's tough out there. The 50k, 3 laps, it's good. You know you've done a good event when you've done that. But I'll get the video of that done soon. Yeah, so that's the Otter Challenge. That's what's happening with Big Bear. And then in terms of what I've been up to, so I was doing a bit more of what I've been up to when we first started doing these podcasts, and then I realised I've not really been up to much, which is why I didn't really mention much. But I've actually been quite busy the last 3 weeks. Since the Woodland Challenge, I've then sort of gone across all the different sort of events that you could possibly do. So I think the week after that, I was down with Centurion, where I do work as well, where I was race directing the South Downs Way 50k. A huge event. So the 50k, I haven't got the exact numbers, we had around 300-ish finishers, but the 100 miler also had over 400 finishers as well. So there's about, on the start line, we had about 1,000 people starting on the South Downs Way, the biggest event that Centurion have ever done. It's part of the World Trail Majors series as well, so that brings with it a whole nother level of scrutiny and exposure, which is amazing, but also really stressful as well. So I very much for this one turn up and sort of do as I'm told to a certain extent. So as much as I help a bit in the planning and sort of sorting out some of the aid stations and I guess some of the nuts and boltsy bits, it's very, very much all in James's head. He knows exactly what's going on. And for this one, I've turned up, I've been told what to do, and I try and execute it. But it was amazing. What was quite, I guess the most stressful bit of the weekend was that the guy that won the 50k is a former Commonwealth Games third place marathon runner, and so it was so fast that packing down the start line and then setting up the finish line, despite the fact it's only a 25-minute drive, we were ready with about 3 minutes to go until he crossed the line. So what we could really do with is people to go a lot slower, so we've got a lot more time to sort things out. But that's not really how Centurion works. It's very much about racing. As much as Centurion looks after everybody, I've said to a million people, all of the stuff that I do with Big Bear was formed off the back of doing the Centurion events in 2015, 2014, because the way they do it is brilliant. But at the front end, it is elite level racing, very much about racing. So it's a different sort of vibe to the way Big Bear works. So we need to make sure we were set up for that first guy to come through. But absolutely brilliant. And once he came through, it all settled down a little bit. We got the finish line all sorted. It was insanely windy. I've never had to... So whereas I always stake down my gazebos, Centurion use big metal weights, which is what a lot of people do. But we had these big metal weights. We had twice as many weights on those we normally would do. But then I staked down the weights and we had tie-down kit on the gazebos because it was going crazy. At one point it blew my laptop off a table. It was really, really windy, which then made for great fun putting up flags and stuff like that in this wind that was just battering. But a beautiful day, sunny but windy, and it's just incredible to see people doing that course and being involved in such a big organisation. There's something like 250 volunteers or 220 volunteers, sorry. I think 15 plus staff, about 1,000 runners, and then with the 100 miler they have crew with them as well. Half of the people were crewed, so it's something like 300 people had cars following them sort of like across the whole course. So that's a whole different thing to manage, which for the 50k that wasn't a thing. No one could be crewed, so I didn't have to get involved in any of that part. But the weekend is intense, so my job there really is just try and take some of the stress away from James so he can concentrate on the 100. I'll concentrate on the 50k and make sure that everybody gets through and it all works out nicely, which it did. It was brilliant success. I wasn't sacked, so we go again and everything's good. So I had that, and then the weekend after I was doing some other work. So we've gone from elite level racing with 1,000 runners to then helping, I was working, but helping with another company who were organising a sponsored walk in aid of a charity that I forget the name of, but on behalf of KPMG. And it was just sort of like chalk and cheese. Obviously, both incredibly well organised for their audiences, but the audiences were just completely different. And for that, I ended up having to mark the course, sweep the course, and do other bits as well. But it was a completely different mentality, and hopefully something I can do more of as well, because it's good to experience these different things and to see how different people do things, and I can bring it all back into Big Bear. And you're not copying things directly or stealing ideas, but nothing's really original. You've got to just go and pick out the bits that work and see how you can fit it into your things. And it goes the other way as well. So the guys who look after the KPMG stuff, we were walking around with big Corex arrows, the sort of the thick plastic, which I used to have when I first started, but to carry, I don't know, 30 of those, you need a big Sainsbury's bag. Whereas the signs that I now use, that I copied from Centurion, are like effectively plastic, but it's like thick paper, and so you can fit 500 in a very small backpack. So I said to them, guys, you want to have these smaller arrows? So they might end up doing that, but you all learn off each other, and it makes everybody better, and it makes events look better. So those people that go to the KPMG thing through work, who would never ever enter anything, they go and do one through work and they enjoy it, and then suddenly they start looking at things and they want to come and pay to run for 6 hours on a Thursday around a park just outside of Birmingham. So that's the hope. And also, I actually did my own event. I actually went and ran in an event. I did the Rutland 10K. So my children for Father's Day had got me a 10K race, and this links into what I said earlier, in that she just looked for 10K near me, Find a Race came up, and the Rutland 10K came up. So it's a clever concept that they've got. I don't know if they've always done it this way, but the Dam Buster, I think that's the name of the triathlon, but the triathlon's on the Sunday, so all the kit's there, everything's all set up for the triathlon, and then they put a 10K on the Saturday morning, which is really quite clever. They had over 500 people, I think, signed up. So you've got 500 people coming for your 10K, which is essentially a side gig, because your main event is the triathlon. So that's where you I guess that's where you make your money. But the 10K, really, really simple. If you've already got all the infrastructure set up and you're already there for the weekend, really clever thing to do. I don't do short distance stuff. I don't tend to do that at all. I don't know the last 10K that I did. I've got a feeling I haven't done a 10K since the kids have been born. So I reckon that's over 10 years ago. I don't recall having done one. I've done a handful of park runs in that 10 years, let alone sort of recently. I think I've done 2 this year, which might be the maximum I did last year as well, I think. So I don't tend to run hard for short distances. It's just not what I do. So I had no intention of doing particularly well at this at all, but I was just trying to be sensible, but I was trying to push as well. So I was sensible on the way out. I was trying to just keep going, but it was just so hot last Saturday, and I do not do well in any sort of heat. The majority of my training is done from like at 6 a.m. Rarely am I out in the heat, and I don't do well in it. If I wanted to do well, obviously I'd train for it, but I don't enjoy it, so I don't train for it, and I don't do the events when it's hot. But it was hot, so I just baked alive, really. I think my finish time was below 50 minutes. It was bang on a time. I think it was bang on 52 minutes, I think. But it was tough. I mean, I had to take I took walking breaks while there was some shade and I had some water. I just absolutely died on my arse. But it was good. It was nice course. It's really beautiful at Rutland. What was quite funny is the parking there is incredibly expensive, but it was included as part of the fee for the 10K. So the 10K didn't really cost much at all if you took off what you would have spent on the parking to be there. So that was quite good. So I was quite happy about that, because they do like to take your money at Rutland. I find that all the water companies like to take your money. But it was a really good event, really nicely put on, and I enjoyed it. And I think I'm going to try and give a 10K a bit of a crack sort of at the end of the summer. So I should have mentioned this when I was talking about the Otter Challenge. But I find this time of year, being a parent, to be just insanely busy with just stuff that you've got to do. So in relation to the Otter Challenge, on Wednesday, so the day before the events, I go and put the course up and put the arrows up and get the van ready and load it with everything, and that's what I do the day before. But it was sports day, so it was my kids' sports day. So I think sports day is the greatest thing ever, and I love going to them, and I love seeing the kids do it. I love seeing my kids do it, and so I was adamant I was going to be there. So I was out the door at 6 to go and mark the course to make sure I could get back in time for 10 o'clock when their sports day was, so that I could finish a disappointing 4th in the parents' race, or the dad's race, which I was not happy about. But hopefully one day the other parents will stop. I know that one of the dads in my kids' class, he beat me, but I think the other two have got older kids, so eventually they'll go out. Hopefully there's no good ones coming through underneath, and it'll be between me and what I'm told is a bodybuilding dad, of which of course I am not. But I really like sports day, so I managed to get back in time for that. And then the day of the Otter Challenge, they were doing an theatre performance after school, and so for some reason this was being billed as something that I had to attend. I go to pretty much all of the things that my kids do, but for some reason this one thing was incredibly important that I got to. So I was right, okay, left, and we got packed down loads of time. Google Maps said I was going to be there with half an hour to spare. Perfect. Got on the M6, standstill traffic, and Google Maps is just going further, and then it was saying I was going to be 15 minutes late. And I thought, this is going to be a disaster, because I just had images of my children just bawling their eyes out on stage as they couldn't see them in the audience. But luckily, I mean, I was still 15 minutes late, but they weren't on, their group wasn't on until right at the end, so I ended up being there in plenty of time, but it did mean running through town, because I wasn't aware they were going to be last, so I wanted to make sure I was in there with plenty of time. But they didn't see me when they were doing the performance, and then only saw me at the end, so luckily there weren't any tears, but I was pleased to get back for that. But it's so difficult at the moment, because the school just throw in performances and celebrations and this, that and the other, and they give you about a week's notice, if that, so it's a nightmare. So I love to see it all. But when I plan my year a year in advance, when I'm then told 3 days before, oh, you've got to come to this, it just makes it very, very difficult. I'm lucky that I have a very, very flexible job where I can move things around. I don't know, a lot of people don't have that, but my kids now sort of expect that I'll be at these things. So if I have an event, I can't miss that, obviously, but they don't really get that because they're kids. But that was good. So we've had quite an active couple of weeks since the last podcast. Coming up before the next one will be done, obviously we've got the Swan Challenge, still entries available, and the Summer 10K, no entries available, but if you want to volunteer, please do. Next week I'll be up at Cannock Chase, looking at that course, getting a video up there. I will be going to a new venue potentially. Well, it'll be potentially a new venue if we can work out the logistics. The problem with finding new venues at the moment is that when I find a new one, I have to bump off another one, because I don't have the time in the diary to add new events in, really. I think it will stretch myself a bit too thin, but I might add 1 or 2 in, because it's been a good year, so I'm going to take advantage of that next year, try and keep the ball rolling. So we'll see how that works out, and yeah, just going to keep on going. And if you made it this far, thank you very much. And if you've made it this far, I will speak to you in a couple of weeks, hopefully at the Swan Challenge in person, or the Summer 10K in person, otherwise via the form of this podcast or video, depending on how you're watching it. So thanks very much.